Your challenge is to decide how long are you going to stick to your pursuit of growth. Is 40 days enough? Is 20 days enough? Is 100 days enough? Is 6 months enough? How long are you willing to stick with it until it starts to show up in your life? How long are you willing to do the work and allowing the work to work on you until you become the kind of person this work can begin working for? If you are trying to become a doctor, that's going to be 6 years for you to become a doctor, to get the license. But that's not the end of learning. Then after that, you have what we call continuing medical education. In other words, you have to continue learning, continue growing, continue updating yourself. To become an accountant, you have to join the respective professional society. To become an architect, you have to join the respective professional society. To become a nurse, you have to join the respective professional society. But that's after you have stuck there for as long as it takes. How long does it take to become a teacher? Maybe it's 4 years, maybe it's 3 years, depending on what program you go into. How long does it take you to become a general in the army? Maybe it's 14 years, maybe it's 10 years. Stay there as long as it takes, such that the arbitrary timeline that I create, the arbitrary timelines we create for ourselves, they are not meant to be the end point. They are meant to be the tools we use to show up every single day to ensure that we can coax our brains to show up in a particular way with intention, with consistency, with interestedness. The elements I wanted to speak about today are the traps, and I have maybe like 12 traps. I want us to talk about 5 of the most destructive traps that can keep you stuck. And unfortunately, these are not traps that keep you stuck when you are not taking action. These are traps that keep you stuck despite the fact that you are taking action. These are the traps that most of the times lead to what we call fake progress. And fake progress is when you are moving bricks around from one side of the wall to another, but you're not laying these bricks on top of each other in a way that compounds. These are really, really common traps. These traps are the same reason why we have books we bought which are sitting on the shelves, we've never read them. We have courses we signed up for, we never completed them. We have notes we took even in church, in meetings or from amazing lessons. We have so many videos we've saved on social media that are inspiring, and you keep saving them, and you have this list of amazing content, but you've never gone back because every single day you go back onto social media, there are new ones. You have those folders of profound insights, things to think about, things to learn, but we never actually go back. Maybe you're at a conference, you're seated there with your phone, and there are amazing slides on the screen, and you're seated there, taking pictures, but those pictures are seated somewhere in your phone, you've never gone back to them. These are traps that can keep us stuck while we are actually taking action, such that the actions we are taking are not leading us to any specific endpoint. The first one is passive learning. Passive learning, where we are essentially scrolling through life. We'll go for this course, we come home with an amazing manual, they send us some beautiful slides by email, but we simply look at them, we learn them as just as knowledge, the same way we read about the conquest of Africa and that's it, or the mole concept, or organic chemistry too, which we don't use anymore. Passive learning, where we can articulate it with our language improves, but it does not show up in terms of how we make decisions and how we act day in, day out. Everybody who can breathe air through their nostrils has heard that they should work with a budget. What percentage of people in the world do you believe work with a budget? They actually sit down and write and work with a budget. I was a culprit of this for a long time, and I couldn't quite figure out how come I have a salary and I actually have an above average salary, but somehow I'm always running behind, until I realized, just like with time, with energy, if I don't apply this simple fundamental, it's not going to show up. Passive learning is exactly the same thing, exactly the same way, with exact similar impact. Passive learning in the areas of goal setting, passive learning in the areas of creating priorities and timelines and commitments. Where I am running a business, I know the basics that I need to do, and I keep learning them, I keep hearing them, but to what extent am I actually implementing them? Now, this is today's conversation. This can be one of those conversations that sounds so basic. You would feel, you might wonder, is this what I woke up to listen to? But this is where we have to start from. Tackling the traps which can keep us stuck while we are actually showing up and taking action. Because for me personally, one of the most painful things would be for me to, 6 years later, to find myself at exactly the same place with people who are not taking action, and yet I was taking action, but I was taking action that was not moving me forward. It was keeping me busy. It was making me feel progressive because it was giving me fake success. Buying the book and reading the book is not enough. Buy the book, read the book, but act on the book. That's what sets me apart from someone else. Switching from passive learning to active learning. The second trap that can keep us stuck, even when we are taking action, is shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome. I find an amazing podcast online, and I love the content they have. And if I master 5 or 6 of their pieces and truly start acting on them, it can give me the mastery I need, maybe in social media marketing or in communication or public speaking or goal setting. But as soon as I start watching their first video, another video shows up next by a different creator on a related subject. And I jump from this one and I look at this one. And then because of that, another creator shows up. Before I know it, I have 10 creators, all of them essentially tackling the same subject. I don't know any of their content in depth, but I know a little bit about each of them. And because I have been looking at 5 different creators, the algorithm gives me a 6th one and a 7th one and an 8th one, such that by the end of the year, I have been going online searching for content and education about public speaking, but by the end of the year, I'm not any better in terms of public speaking. That's because I am taking action, but I'm stuck because of the shiny object syndrome. I am not staying at any restaurant long enough for them to deliver my menu and my order so that I can actually eat and walk away satisfied. I keep sipping from one restaurant to another. I have gone to 20 restaurants, but I still feel hungry. Why? I did not sit at any restaurant long enough. This has been one of the most powerful switches I had to make. In 2017, I decided I was going to read 10 of John C. Maxwell's books and stick with those books until I feel that I actually have depth around his books. And I stuck with John Maxwell's books for 10 years. I stuck with his books for 10 years because I realized, since if you've read Embody, you will see the story that in 2004, that's the first time I came across John Maxwell's books. And I kept reading these books, but then I found that I know so much about his content, but that content is not showing up in my life. When I committed to actually stick with this content, I had time to digest everything that I had been reading all along, everything that I had exposed myself to. And now from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, I found that that content was actually ready and for me to start applying it. It slowed me down in terms of my book buying. That's one of the things that I really, really buy, books. slowed me down, but it allowed me to buy books in a more deliberate manner, such that whenever I'm buying a book, I know what purpose I'm buying that book for, so that I don't keep moving from one book to the next, to the next, to the next, for the sake of moving from one book to the next, to the next. And this applies in every other area. You can move from one physical training coach, fitness coach, to another physical training coach before you have gotten value from the first one. Move from one business idea to the next before you have really squeezed out value from the first one to the next one. And unfortunately, social media is training our brains to scroll through life. Have you ever scrolled on social media until it tells you, now this is the end of your options of posts for today? It's endless. You can sit there the whole day and you keep scrolling and you will never come to the end. In fact, there are updates coming. Sometimes there are memories being brought back, and sometimes it's memories of situations when you didn't even necessarily do anything profound. It was just, you posted a picture and it brings that back. Passive learning. And it's very, very related to shiny object syndrome, because you are being distracted by shiny object syndrome from something that you are engaged in passively. If you are deeply immersed in this one thing, then the shiny object becomes a consideration. Does that hold enough value for me to disengage from what I am doing now and go there? The third trap that can keep us stuck, even when we are taking action, is overcommitting. Overcommitting. Our brain wants us to go at it big. It wants us to hit the road, not just running, sprinting. I see this most classically among people who are beginning to work out in the gym the first day, the first time, or maybe the first time in a long time. And how do I know it? Just listen to them the following day. They can't move. They don't want to move. The legs are hurting. So it's like, oh, I went to the gym yesterday. It was leg day. It's not leg day for you until you have restarted and gotten used to. Before you do leg day, let's just do breathing day. Just go in there and do gentle exercise consistent for 30 minutes and come out and show up for a month. Then we can now talk about leg day or shoulder day or whatever day you want to do. Overcommitting. Our brain releases dopamine when we do things in a big way, except you will never be able to sustain something that overextends you. When you overcommit, you automatically create avoidance. You activate resistance inadvertently. And once you activate resistance, you have created an assurance that the day is coming when you will give up. The day is coming when you give up. One of the rules in Atomic Habits by James Clear that he talks about, which is crucial for you sticking with the habits you start, is to make it satisfying. How do you make something satisfying? You commit with the capacity you have to what you would be able to do. You should stretch yourself a little, but not overstretch yourself. So if you are overcommitting, you are assured that you will give up on what you are doing, which means your work is going to be wasted. So you start taking action today. Because you overcommitted, after 2-3 weeks, you can no longer continue because you have automatically activated resistance. You have created a pattern of avoidance. You end up losing beautiful work, intense work, sometimes very costly work that you have already invested in it. And that's why overcommitting is a sure way to keep you stuck even when you are consistently taking action. The fourth trap is inadequate tracking. Inadequate tracking, which is the same thing as inadequate measurement. No part of your life is as hard to see as the overall extent of what you are actually doing. I I remember I was learning how to do a headstand, and I was working with a coach. That was towards the end of 2020, and started working with him. And I had a colleague who was also in the same residency program with me, so we were working with him. The headstand was something we used to do at the end, just something fun as we exit from his physical training. And I remember one day my colleague recorded me doing it, and I could swear I stood on my head for 30 seconds until I watched the video, and it was 3 seconds and maybe 15 microseconds thereabout. You see, I was so convinced that I am able to just, put my head there and stand and, balance for 30 seconds. That's what it felt like until I watched the video. By the second, my body is already going like this. By the third second, down. And that's what can happen when we begin taking action, especially when we have an important goal. I promise you, if you had a video recording you for 2 hours when you are doing work you committed to do, and then you come back and watch that video, you will see a different picture of yourself. You will notice the times when you become distracted. Maybe you automatically reach for your phone, whether you open it or not, or you're disturbed by something that happens around you. We have a very biased view of our own progress, of our own actions. We judge ourselves not by our true actions, but by our intentions. And the intentions are layered by emotions because we want to view ourselves in the best light. When you measure, when you track, then you have cold data that you can't lie to, that shows you, okay, you wanted to study for 4 hours. This is how much you did. You wanted to work for 7 hours of focused work today. All right, this is how much you did. I bought a clock that is in another room that I use to monitor my work. And when I am doing, especially when I'm writing, I will set 45 minutes or maybe 60 minutes, and I press it. And once it's pressed, I am not standing up or switching attention to do anything else unless I pause it. And it shocked me in the initial days how much time I was wasting in between. You don't know, for real, you don't know how much you are doing, how you're performing, how you're progressing until you track. Track your workouts, track your sleeping time, waking time, track how much time it takes you to do certain things, especially the routine things you do day in, day out, so that if you want to optimize them to save more time, or just to be aware how much time it takes so that when you plan, you know how much time to accord to them. That is the beginning. If you don't track, you have no idea what you are working with. Time, energy, attention. Time is the fundamental resource. Tracking how much time things take you, tracking how much time you are dedicating to certain things, or how much time certain things are taking, even if you're not dedicating that time to them. Open your phone, if your phone hopefully has a feature that can show you how much time are you actually spending on social media in a month. Just go to last year. How much time did you invest in social media last year? If your phone has, if you have an Android or an iOS, it should be able to show that. If you don't track, you don't know where those resources are going. The final one, the final trap that can keep you stuck, even if you're taking action day in, day out, is the all or nothing mindset. The all or nothing mindset. I promise you 100%. Most of the days when you skip doing what you need to do, it's because of the all or nothing mindset. When you feel as though if you are not able to show up and do 45 minutes of a workout, then you might as well skip. And yet, the rule should first of all be to show up consistently. That's the first step, to show up consistently. Then the second step, we can talk about how much workout will you do. Because unless the habit, the commitment, the discipline of showing up is already locked in, unless that's already locked in, then your ability to improve, your ability to compound what you are doing has already been impaired. The all or nothing mindset. The reality is that you are not going to feel the same way every single day. You are not going to be able to do the same amount every single day. You're not going to have the same excitement, the same determination, the same energy, the same focus every single day. Even the environment where you show up is not going to look the same every single day. Some days, for example, during this season in Nairobi, maybe the gym where you go to, it might have flooded. What is the goal? To show up. Show up and do what? Work out. The where doesn't matter. That day, it's not all or nothing. Because if it's all or nothing, it's either you go to the gym and work out there for 45 minutes or you don't. So that if the gym is not available, then you won't work out. If you are not able to get to the gym and stay there 45 minutes, then you will not work out. Breaking out of the all or nothing mindset can be one of the biggest keys that unlocks your productivity, that allows you to truly make use of what you have. So that the first rule becomes showing up. Then the second rule and third rule and fourth rule, those can follow. First rule is show up. If you are absolutely unable to show up, then the second rule is don't skip more than one day. Don't skip 2 days in a row. Skipping 1 day can be inevitable because of external circumstances. Skipping 2 days in a row is a choice. It's a decision. It's the beginning of a new habit. Once you skip day 1, skip day 2, you have already started a streak. Now you're going to skip 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 10 days. It's already beginning to become a habit. 1 month later, that thing is long gone. You have to start afresh. Those are the 5 that I wanted us to speak about: passive learning, shiny object syndrome, overcommitting, inadequate tracking or inadequate measurement, and the king of them all, the all or nothing mindset. Believing that if you can't do it all, then there's no need for you to do it at all. I have seen massive progress in my own life by overcoming these traps and watching out for these traps, switching from passive to active learning, watching out for shiny object syndrome. So that when you narrow down, like this year, I have 5 authors whose work I am studying deeply. And then the rest, I will pick their book and I will look for one idea from that book and I'm gone with that book. If it's good enough to merit me coming back to it, someday I will come back to it. But for now, I'm just focusing myself on these 5 people, and all of them related in some way, but each of them giving me something specific. Overcommitting, avoiding overwhelm. Anytime you overwhelm yourself, you have assured that you are going to give up. Inadequate tracking. You don't have to start tracking everything. Start tracking the important ones. And start tracking consistently. Just, even if it's just one thing, start there and just start tracking it so that you increase your awareness. And the resolve today to get out of the all or nothing mindset. I hope that you pick this up, and I can't wait to hear how they work for you, whether you are able to break free and make this year, make this quarter, make the remaining part of this year truly amazing.